Hi, everyone. My name's Shrina Amin, and these are my colleagues, Josh Yelsey and Moon Javed, and we're here from the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. Now, I want to take you back to the 2006 NFL season. My beloved Chicago Bears somehow ended up in the NFC Championship game. It was supposed to be a really cold, windy Chicago winter day. I couldn't decide whether I wanted to shell out for tickets or watch from the comfort of my own home. At the last minute, my sister snagged 2 tickets, and I decided to reluctantly accompany her. I remember we were sitting behind the end zone, absolute last row, bundled in layer upon layer of clothing. By the end, I couldn't feel my fingers or my toes. But what I do remember is being around so many die-hard Bears fans. I remember the Chicago Soldier Field feeling like it was shaking at times. And at the end, the snow was gently falling, and Lovie Smith and Brian Urlacher were being handed the NFC Championship trophy. I thought to myself, wow, we're going to the Super Bowl, and I wouldn't miss being here for the world. That's the type of magical experience the NFL wants to give each and every one of its fans live. However, ticket availability and pricing decisions need to be made with important business considerations in mind. Our team has developed a methodology to optimize stadium capacity, ticket mix, and ticket pricing for any given market. We use data and analytics to develop our approach and to support our recommendations. But we also build flexibility into our model so that we can make qualitative adjustments. Now, Moon's going to talk you a little more in depth through how we develop this approach.
Thanks, Shrina. Once again, we set out to maximize revenue and seat utilization. We did this using 3 drivers: seat capacity, seat mix, and average sales price. Let's take a deeper dive into stadium capacity. In order to maximize stadium capacity, we did a regression analysis. We used the 32 stadium sizes that existed plus the 4 sample teams. And we coupled that with a multitude of variables, be it economic, demographic, or NFL team and fan variables. From this regression, 4 variables really jumped out at us: population size, affluent households, number of large corporations, and a measure of fan enthusiasm known as the ESPN Fan Index. Once we had our 4 variables set, we jumped back into the 32 teams and divided the stadium sizes into 3 buckets: small, medium, and large. And we did this using the 25th, 50th, and 75th percentiles for stadium size that existed. And this was 65, 70, and 75K. Once we had our 4 variables set and our small, medium, and large methodology, we were able to make recommendations for each of our 4 sample teams. Next, let's take a look at seat mix. In order to determine optimal seat mix, we looked at qualitative drivers for each different seat type. Let's start at the bottom at suites. When we looked at suites, we initially took the sample data and divided it into quartiles: 50, 100, 150, and 200 suites per stadium. From there, we looked at 2 qualitative drivers: large corporations controlled for the number of substitutes, and once again, the ESPN Fan Index. We use large corporations because these are the primary purchasers of these types of suites. And we control it for substitutes because as a number of other sports franchises in the city rise, the demand for this specific suite might fall. Now looking at club seats, we followed a very similar methodology. We divided up our sample data into quartiles, and then instead of just using large corporations, we blended large corporations with affluent households, as the primary purchasers for these seats are going to be both wealthy households and large corporations. Once we had the stadium size set, the club seats, and the suite set, figuring out general admission was pure simple subtraction. Finally, let's take a look at average sales price. Average sales price is highly correlated to ticket attendance. So what we did again was run a regression with average attendance against the multitude of variables we looked at for stadium capacity. This time, however, 2 different variables jumped out to us, and it was historic win-loss percentage and also the wait list for season ticket holders. Once we did this analysis, we then made some qualitative adjustments based off cost of living indexes, and we made a premium for new stadiums as well. With these set, we jumped back into our original data once again for our 32 teams and looked at the average sales price. Using a high, medium, low approach again, using the 25, 50th, and 75 percentiles, we were able to make some determinations. However, before we were able to make our final recommendations, we did make some other adjustments, and Josh will walk you through that.
Thanks, Moon. There is an art to this science. Once our model spit out data for 32 teams plus our 4 sample demos, we thought about what other qualitative factors we should consider when making pricing decisions. The first is team legacy. You take a team like the Green Bay Packers, for example, with a strong postseason history and a monument of an NFL stadium. Going to Lambeau Field is like going to a historical museum. We made a slight we accounted for a slight upward price that our model spit out for that. Second, when we factored in where suites should be priced, especially for LA, we looked at Staples Center. But Staples Center suites are sold on a year-round package basis. So when you buy a suite at Staples, you're buying the suite for the year. To back into what the price is, we divided that by 2 to get the average cost for a Clippers and Lakers ticket, Clippers and Lakers suite, which ended up being between $125,000 and $200,000. Next, we look at secondary market prices. We made qualitative adjustments based on where tickets were selling in the secondary market using a 50% markup as our benchmark. So we thought if tickets were trading above 50%, that might reflect that they were underpriced, and if they were trading below 50% on the secondary market, that might reflect that they were appropriately or slightly overpriced. With club seating, there was very limited data available, so we looked across the NFL to find where the average club seat was priced relative to general admission, and found on average it was a 3 to 4x markup. Let's see how this data applies to 2 of our 4 cities. First, let's look at LA. LA is obviously a very heavily populated area with a large affluent population and large corporate presence. However, LA does have one drawback: the presence of major substitutes. There are 6 other professional sports teams in Los Angeles, plus 2 very passionate collegiate fan bases. And being from Southern California myself, I can attest that the 100 miles of free California beaches look pretty good right now. We found on average LA general admission tickets were slightly underpriced, and the LA team was not getting appropriate utilization from its club seats and suites, so we reduced both. Looking to a completely different market, Oklahoma City, it's obviously a much lower populated area with the smaller affluent population and smaller corporate presence. However, if we look at our primary analog, the Oklahoma City Thunder, we can see that fan enthusiasm is incredibly high and fans show up in droves. Plus, our sample data has shown us that general admission tickets are trading more than 100% above face value, which indicates these are underpriced. However, what this also shows is that perhaps instead of increasing general admission seating or increasing prices, we should reduce general admission seats because fans will clearly pay a premium, so let's add more club seats. So we added 2,000 club seats, took away 2,000 general admission seats, and what you can see is over $10 million in additional revenue. What this shows is our model can add value in both large and small markets.
So for both the markets Josh just discussed and our 2 other sample markets, our methodology achieved both objectives of first, increasing utilization, and second, maximizing revenue. In our approach, we first look at stadium size, and that's based on the quality, the size of the demand, and the quality of the demand. Then we look at ticket mix, which is based on the individual driver for each ticket type, whether it's affluent households or a number of large corporations. Finally, we carefully tweak pricing based once again on the size and quality of demand, the availability of substitutes, and qualitative adjustments like how historical or relevant is this franchise. At the end of the day, we think that this methodology is right and it works for the teams in our sample market. However, with additional data, we certainly think that we could be more granular and customized in our recommendations. We also think that the NFL should look at other tangential revenue streams, whether it's dynamically pricing games, meaning charging more for premium or night games, maximizing on-site revenue for advertising, merchandise, and concessions, and potentially even exploring bringing the secondary ticket market, part of it, in-house. What we know is that the NFL is an addictive product, and once fans go to the game the first time, they keep coming back, like me after the NFC Championship game. So the important thing is to get fans in the door the first time. Thank you, and with that, we'll take questions.
You guys talked a lot about the secondary market, 50% above, 50% below, in terms of what tickets might be trading at. Did you also factor in quantity of tickets sold on the secondary market?
We did. I think that's a good question. We found on average it was roughly between 5 and 15% of general admission tickets were trading on the secondary market. So if a team is trading, if a ticket is trading 50% above face value, that doesn't necessarily reflect that 50,000 tickets are going to trade at that price. What it reflects is there's a small amount of people who maybe had a conflict they couldn't get out of. However, if you see a plethora of tickets trading at 100%, that would indicate over 100% above, and larger quantities, that would indicate that perhaps, and you see this at the Super Bowl a lot or playoff games, that a face value ticket isn't underpriced. But we felt that fans need the flexibility to allow ticket exchange in order to sell that package.
Can you guys talk to me a little bit about your recommendation for Portland? It looks like they're going backwards with your plan.
Yes, thanks. Once again, a good question. The backbone of our thesis is that attendance at NFL games is habit forming. Another assumption when we factor in building a stadium is that over the length of time, a team's going to be a 500 team. So they're going to have winning seasons and losing seasons. We didn't want to price a certain way just because a team is losing, but we felt that it was most essential to create that habit formation, get them there. Hopefully management gets lucky and you build a winning team, but you need to get them in the seats to give them the experience of going to an NFL game. And with revenues in our sample data that have been steadily declining, we felt that losing money in the short term would add long-term revenues.
Also, the primary objective in our model was first to maximize utilization. And so the pricing here really reflects trying to fill those seats first, even if that comes at sacrificing profit.
Is this working? You guys were one of the few teams to actually show the number of pricing tiers across all the seating products in your charts. How did the number of tiers play into your recommendation?
We really just looked at it qualitatively, looking at the sample data, and they had 8 tiers for each stadium, and we felt that that was definitely appropriate. And we wanted to basically look at a consumer and say, how would you want to purchase a ticket? If you're between the 40-yard line, you'd pay a little bit of a premium for that. Once again, if you're within the 20-yard lines, you pay a premium versus the corners and the end zone. We didn't want to make it overly confusing for the consumer and felt that it was very appropriate what was used in the